So anyway, hi everybody. It's good to see you.
Morning.
Um, let's jump right into it, shall we?
Okay.
Great. Well, I mean,
Bill,
yeah,
just a quick one. I'm going to introduce myself.
Yeah.
I'm Tom with TCAL, and Butch and I are kind of handing off various hostings, all these power positions. So I probably won't be able to say the whole distance, but I just on behalf of TCAL, I wanted to thank you for stepping forward and adding your expertise and quality presentation to the mix. So with that, I'm going to hang back and lurk around, I guess is what okay. Take care, folks.
Take care, Tom.
Good to see you, Pam, Butch.
You too.
thanks, Tom. This is being recorded, so if you want to pop in a different session or something else comes up in your life.
Yeah, I think I probably will be doing that. So I'll be back to see your whole presentation later.
Yeah, no, my feelings will not be hurt. I'm going to share. I'm actually using Keynote so that I can present in a window. What? That's my new favorite thing. Just did a very quick export this morning out of Google Slides. So the big idea, and we're not going to jump too much into the nuts and bolts of what Google Sites is. It's really to give you a couple lessons learned, mistakes I've made, and that I continue to make. And then also just a few examples of like, oh my gosh, I never thought of using a Google site for that. Anissa is about to come in. Should we start talking about Anissa? I think we should. So before we go too far, I'm wearing the same shirt. This is awkward and awesome. I'm Bill Selleck. My pronouns are he and him. I'm Director of Technology at Hillbrook School. We are an independent school, K-8 in Los Gatos, so just on the other side of the hill. I see a lot of Santa Cruz humans here, assuming about a quarter of our faculty live in Santa Cruz. I'm doing that because it's over the hill. So anyway, and I like to wear shirts of pictures I'm in. The big thing, and I'm going to hit you over the head with this a couple different ways, a couple different times, because for me, it's really shifted how I think about asynchronous resources, is that by putting something on a Google site, or really like anywhere that has a link, is that you're creating resources for parents, students, faculty, staff, kind of just any human that you might deal with. They can access that whenever they need it, which is so simple and yet so profound, right? Like, I need to know this thing now. I can access this thing now. In the past, what I've been asked to do as tech director is walk people through a thing, train them on a thing, introduce them to a thing. And the ask is for me to do that live in real time. And that's often at the end of a day when I know as a teacher, I was never at my best after a long day, like on a Wednesday afternoon, forget about it. So I definitely was not like prepared for it. And often it was never the Goldilocks moment. It was either like, I know all of this, go, or it was like, I have no idea what you're talking about, like, go back to step one, right? And so that gets that third point of like any pace, is that when you create a resource and post it on a Google site, really anywhere, but we're going to talk about Google sites, those humans you are creating it for can go as slow or as fast as they want. And for me, this is really what got me excited about video and posting videos to YouTube for learning, is that you could rewatch something 30 times as one of my students, because I know you're not going to ask a question 30 times in my classroom, right? And again, it's so simple, and I know you know this, but to like really like kind of take in like how transformative that can be, and that should be for all learners, right? And then the any place thing, like, and we know that now more than ever, right? Anyone can learn anything at any time. And so I'm going to really introduce you to Google Sites. And I recognize that like we're skipping some of the nuts and bolts right now that might be helpful to you, but I think like framing it as to like, when you build these resources, those humans can access it whenever they need, from wherever they want, and however quickly or slowly they need, right? That's such a big deal, such a big deal. And that can't be understated. This was actually part of I stole this directly from what were we called? It was the superintendent, state superintendent, Tom Torlakson. It was his ed tech task force. And we created some recommendations about 9 years ago, I think. And a lot of the driver and the way we organized it was around these kind of three principles, looking ahead to what education might be. In a lot of ways, shutting down campuses has forced a lot of this. But I think that as we continue to create resources, teeing them up even when we might do it synchronously, in the moment that we're doing this synchronously right now, like this is not lost on me that I'm talking about the power of asynchronous and yet we're on a call together. I get that, like there's always a time for synchronous, but then having those resources asynchronously is so, so, so powerful, right? So I'm gonna give you, I think, 3 really simple tips. And these would often go at the end, but if you want to jump to the session, this is a great excuse to do so. Also, just I think getting these in your notes while you're taking notes before you start to multitask me, which is what I know I would be doing if I were me. I'm throwing them at you right now. So if you go to sites.google.com, it'll give you the option to use Classic. Just don't. I have many reasons why. This is around the new Google Sites. There's some stuff it can't do, but I'm going to show you what it can do. And if it can do these things and this is the right solution, you're good to go, right? So just stick with the new sites. I will usually have a couple different windows. I'm in Google Chrome all the time. So I'll go to Finder, new incognito window, and I will paste the link to that site. When you add assets to a Google site, they're not automatically shared. And I make this mistake every single time. And even though I'm telling you, when you build a Google site, you will make this mistake, probably less than I will, but almost every time, right? So having it either in different accounts or in an incognito window will help you check, oh, when I click play on that video, I can't view that. Let me change that Google Drive video to anyone with a link can view. Great. Now people can see it. And that's fine. Maybe you just know you're going to make the mistake and you share it with a few people ahead of time. And they're like, yeah, I can't see anything on this site. Like you see the preview, but when you click on it, it's not shared because you're adding stuff from Google Drive. I recommend, and if you have a strong opinion on this, feel free to ignore me, throwing things into a team drive or a shared drive. Shared drive is what they're called these days. And just make one for that site or make one for all the sites so that you have some videos, some screen recordings, some whatever you've made, some images, some docs, put all those in that shared drive. Think about it almost like an external hard drive or like a flash drive. Remember those things? Throw them in there, and then you can just double check all the permissions in there. Don't feel like you have to be, I don't know quite what the right verb is, kind of stingy with how you create your shared drives. You can have as many as you want if you're, an education account. So just in Google Drive, new shared drive, call it Google Sites. And then just anything you need from any site lives in there. Ignore me if you have strong opinions on that, okay? And then I said it once in a slightly different way, but once you upload the videos you want into that shared drive, right click on it, share, anyone with a link can view. Go to the next video, right click on it, share, anyone with a link can view. Just double check all of that. I know that, I have slides on that, I am saying it to you, I still make that mistake, so it gets its own slide. I'm going to show you some examples. Before I do that, I have a quick question for you. In the chat, if you want to talk, feel free to unmute. Where are you with like Google Sites? Never used it a bit. I'm just excited to see Bill, and that's why I'm here. Whatever, like what kind of help me get the Goldilocks moment for you? How fast, how slow do you want to go through these? All right, perfect. At any moment, please unmute and start talking. Because I want to get your thoughts. If you're like, oh my gosh, you missed this great thing, like unmute and add a thing, like +1 onto that. If I almost answered your question, just be like, hey, will this do that? Feel free to kind of do, let me know however much you want. I want to give you a few examples because I think this is the most exciting way to go through it. And I think the easiest way is just to share my whole screen. if I share my desktop, we can just hop in. And I want to give you, I think, 4 examples of what this is going to look like. This is a website just for parents at our school. I think that there's a continuum of secure or easy. So back in March, when kind of the world shut down, things were pretty locked down and pretty secure on campus for the calendars and docs and usernames and passwords and all those things. It was secure, right? The downside of that is that when parents, particularly of like first and second graders that were capable of actually doing some significant work remotely, but didn't quite have like the mileage to know all the passwords, it was secure and none of the parents could really get in. So I had just thousands of emails of like, what's the username? What's the password? And so I pivoted pretty quickly, and this website you're going to see switches that from really secure over to the other side where it's easy. Just here's a website that walks you through what usernames are. I've linked to kind of, you have to log in as a parent, but just every username and every password of every elementary student in our site, just so that it's easy, right? Not secure, but easy so that parents can just get to the thing. So this is a Google site just for parent resources. Getting it to stay this small was actually more work. So I'm going to just click this button and preview what this looks like for parents. If you've not seen this, this lets you preview what it looks like on a desktop. This is what it looks like on a tablet. And then on a phone, what this would look like. All right, so maybe we'll look at like tablet view. So most people need Seesaw. So here's a video for that. Hopping on Google Meet with like an awkward silhouette, right? Here's how to log in your Google account. Here's Calendar, Classroom, and then here's how to use Zendesk for support, right? And it's just that easy. At some point, I was going to build out a whole bunch of other resources, and I have just one, and that's fine, right? So really simple, nearly identical for each one: video, title, description, video, title, description. There are 2 pages. This definitely errs on the side of making it easy and not as secure. If you're a parent and you really want to get a grade level calendar with all the links, here they are. And by the way, if I share this with you and you click on 3rd grade, you're going to have access to every 3rd grade Zoom account, right? Easy for parents, not too secure. And I'm happy to like roll that back if the links get out in the wild in a not great way. And then even embedded, right? So this is our junior kindergarten, kind of a TK class, and their links for the day. So they actually didn't update it for the break. So it's almost 11 o'clock. So I could go to the homeroom block. That's actually not a link. Here's science, right? So I could just copy that, and I'm in the science classroom. Simple, right? Easy, clean. And then when parents have questions, here you go. When we get people enroll mid-year, easy email to parents. Hey, here's all the calendars. Here's all the stuff you need to be on. Like, you're good to go. You're simple. You can see like we had a whole bunch of other pages at some point and just really simplified it to 2 pages. Here are the things, and you're good to go, right? Any questions about any of this so far? I will say I'm seeing a little bit of like, I'd love to little bit about, kind of Google Sites period. I try and keep it really, really simple. And so I'm actually going to show you very few features, just the ones you actually might use. So text box is really useful. Drive, anytime you add a photo or a video, hopefully it's in that shared drive called Google Sites that Bill uses, only not Bill. That would be a bad name for you. Just adding it from Google Drive. I usually just grab the thing on the left, description on the right. And really the only other thing I use is a button. The button looks like that. The rest I would mostly ignore, and then just building out the pages. Like, it really can be, and I think should be, that simple. If you want it to be more complicated, then maybe not Google Sites is the solution. For me, when I get to the point of I'm working on a Google Doc and I start like going to like file, page setup, and changing like the background of the document, that's when, as my kindergartner would say, TO for timeout. I'd be like, all right, my Google Doc is getting a little bit too complicated. I'm trying to make it look really pretty. Just let me stop, copy and paste everything from Google Docs to Google Sites, and then just build out a Google site. If I want to do like a full-on website, I would not do Google Sites. If I'm trying to get like a fancy something, probably not Google Sites. But if I just want it to look just like simple, like resources that you can access whenever you need, Google Sites is absolutely the right answer. The biggest one we have, the biggest Google site I've created this past year is really just all tech resources. So I'm going to go kind of in reverse order. So for account management, if you want to know about Apple School Manager, right, there's a whole page for that. And this could be just a folder in Google Drive, and this could be a doc. But you can see, like for Seesaw, we've slowly built out a lot of resources. Here's a video I made. Here's a PDF we have, right? So this PDF you can actually scroll and see. If you need it to be bigger, that little button in the corner, and now it's full page. Before we had this as a Google site, we had it as a Google Classroom, and it just began to get a bit unwieldy. Before it was in Google Classroom, where our faculty were students in it, and the tech team was teachers. Before it was that, it was just shared Google Drive folders. I like, though, that you're able to actually just watch the tutorial, right? Revision on feedback, adding links because some people are doing that wrong, a link to the help center, here's a template, and then, oh, a second link to the Seaside Help Center. And that's fine, right? Like I'm not spending hours getting this to look just right. Similar thing, and you're gonna start to see a pattern here. And once you kind of see the pattern of it, you're like, cool, like this actually isn't that hard. So here's Google Classroom. Here's the one-pager PDF. Here's the walkthrough. Here's the Help Center. Let's jump down to maybe Apple Clips. Here's the one-pager. There's the walkthrough. There's the Help Center. Flipgrid. Want to say this with me? Here's the one-pager. Here's the tutorial. Ooh, here's a broken link that's embedded. And then here's the Help Center. Right, so each one of the big platforms that we know faculty need to be proficient with has its own page. And then for professional learning, there's a lot of stuff, right? Accessibility is one of the newer ones. I took some time during a faculty meeting to really dig into some accessibility, but didn't remotely expect that faculty would be able to like retain all of it. So I broke it into 3 big buckets, right? And my goal of this, if we go back to the slides, is that faculty can access this whenever they want, wherever they want, and however quickly they want, right? So I can go pretty quickly through all these iOS accessibility features, and they can remind me a whole bunch of times. If I had not made these 3 videos around accessibility on the iPad, this would have been a one-off, like 10 minutes at a faculty meeting, and they've retained 10% of it maybe. But now, because they know this is that Google site, and they built up that accessibility like that, they'll probably remember. Maybe I'm indulging myself a bit too much with that, right? But then they can actually go back and rewatch these 3 videos that I made. And they're not hard. One recommendation I will strongly make is that when you're making any sort of video, any sort of tutorial, promise yourself that you will do it in one take, and then do it in one take. Don't wait till it's perfect. Don't spend a lot of time editing it with fancy software. Just get the video recorded, be done with it. And if you're doing this for teachers, at some point explicitly name that you did this in one take, and that they should make their videos in one take, that they shouldn't be spending hours late into the night editing videos for the next day. Just get it done. Wow, someone's on a motorcycle at the top of a hill. I didn't even, this is such like a squirrel moment for me. I didn't even know you could get to this random hill outside my window. And somebody, wow, that's so weird. What is, now I got to figure out what's up on the top of that hill. Anyway, not the point. You can see there's a bunch of, kind of weekly announcements. We have a silly acronym for that. We have meeting owls for video camera, for microphone, for speakers in every room. So there's some tutorials and really specific configurations, really more details around Seesaw. The one that I am most grateful that I would call it past bill, right, that I made over the summer is the new employee orientation, because we've had some mid-year hires as people have had to be long-term subs, which shouldn't be too surprising for you to hear, right? And so as this new employee comes in, like I'm slammed, like I'm busier than I have ever been, as I'm sure all of you are, right? So how do you onboard people successfully? And then how do you make sure that all that information that they need to know, they can actually know it? Because it's not like in years past where it was, oh, you need to use Seesaw, you need to use Google Meet, right? It's no, you have to, like, you have to know how to do this and be very good at using this on day one. And that's like a crazy ask, right? And so this new employee orientation used to be all in person. It was all in real time, and we made it all asynchronous, and we made it all on this page, right? So as they scroll through, they're like, what? Oh, God, such a great buddy Bitmoji. They have all these other resources, but it's also like, here's everything you need to know to be a new employee at Hillbrook, right? Here's a login to our portal. Here's how to get the printers and download other software. Here's how to use Slack. Please use Slack. There's a button that's a link. Here's a website that we built for broken iPads or iPad problems. Here's how to get help desk tickets started, right? Just over your Google Apps. And then this was actually a thing we did in real time, like step by step. So make sure you have a photo. Here's how to make a slide deck. Here's how to subscribe to the calendars, yada, 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 right? And just, I think 2 weeks ago, we had somebody as a long-term sub for 2 months, and they're like, what do I need to know? And like this page is what you need to know, just all the things. So take a look at it. You have kind of all day to get onboarded. Watch these at your own pace. And then let's meet at the end of the day, and I will walk you through whatever you're stuck on or whatever isn't clear. That has been so useful for me as a tech director to have the one page. And this is a lot, right? This is not like good design, but that's not the point. The point is that it's all on one page, and that anybody that's a new employee at my school has access to all the info they need. There have been also new employees that, we had a 3-day onboarding in August, and they're like, hey, what was the thing like about the printers, like now that we're back on campus, which we are, and I need to not kind of talk about that too much. Now that we're on campus, how do I add a printer again? I didn't need to know that in August, and now I do. Right, here's the video. I can just link to the video. I don't have to spend time walking them through that. Yeah, and yes, we have Slack, Katie. I want to get more people on it. I want to stop the group emails. We're not there. And I've had too many you have to do this things this past year, so that I've not forced the Slack. But yeah, it's good stuff. This is probably the simplest page I have. We require all employees to be Apple teachers. We're an Apple distinguished school, so part of that is that we have to say we do that. This is just really simple. This is a Google site. It is one page. It could have been a Google Doc, but it's not, right? This is embedded from Apple's website, actually. Here are some hashtags. It's not a beautiful page, but it super gets the job done. And then the last one, and I'm showing you this knowing that it is a not great website, but that these sites can be works in progress, right? So we have a lot of subs, and what we are asking of subs, so our campus is open, We have some in-person learners. We have some remote learners. Our middle school doesn't go from class to class. And so those teachers will actually Zoom in or use Google Meet to jump in on the call. And so subs are having to coordinate like craziness. And so at some point, we're going to build out more videos. This is not visually appealing. It's not even like justified left and right correctly. But there's a link to a Google Doc. This is a very big Google Doc. Here are all the login info you need. And then this is just an email button, tech@Hillbrook, that creates a ticket in Zendesk. Right? So it can be just a pretty ugly website, but like we're going to build this out and there will be more resources and it will at least be organized. Maybe I can even just clean that up real quick for you or for myself. Center that a little bit. I don't know why those are the wrong buttons. So I want that centered. Nope, that's too small. There we go. Maybe we'll make them left justified. Or that goes on top of that. That makes more sense. All right, that's not nearly as ugly. Cool. And then let's just publish that and publish. All right, that's better. So I'm gonna pause there for a moment. Questions, thoughts? Is there anything specific you do want to see? We have about 10 minutes together. You all have been quiet too. You're all like nice and talkative 30 minutes ago and now just kind of settled in. I can share the link to all the things, Katie. Where is this doc? So everything should be here. If I open this here, it should go to my blog post that has the embedded slide deck and then these examples. And you're welcome to share these with whomever you want. Just please be aware that some of them have links to passwords. Certainly the parent one, like I don't have a link in it, but I say like, this is the link to see every student username and every student password for Google accounts, which is not something I thought I would ever do, but has made parents' lives so much better. So I'm happy to do that and happy to even share that with you. Any other questions? I know some of you were like pretty googly. Is there anything that you would add to this? Any tips you have?
You know, I had used it a lot when teaching LEC classes, and the people going through the LEC would build a Google site for their portfolio. I never took the extra mile. I could have modeled that much better by building a Google site with all of the resources. I mean, I would find a YouTube video on how to use a certain tech tool and then email it out to people when they needed it, versus I like your idea of building a Google site that has all those already embedded in it. So you just add to that as you go through the courses, and somebody struggles with this, somebody else must be struggling also. So you'd add that to that Google site. So that's a good tip for me to think about. You model it at the same time. You cut down on your workload because you do it once.
Yeah, and I'll say a similar thing, kind of a different way. When someone, Roland's about to join us. Hi, Roland. When someone has a really specific question about like doing a thing, I'll build a tutorial for them. But instead of like, if I get an email from Butch that's like, hey, can you show me how to add a link in Seesaw? I will record I'll do a screen recording. And instead of saying, hey, Butch, I'm going to walk you through this, I'll be like, hey, let's take a look at a screen recording. I'll make it. I will answer your question explicitly, send it to you, and then also throw it onto the Google site tutorial. Or even like we use Zendesk. I've set that up over the summer. I might even like create a help article for it and then add the video to that. And so as I'm creating the video, which would be overkill for one person, you know, like it's great. But it's like, wow, like you made a 3-minute video just for me to answer the question, but I added it to a Google site, added it to a help article, right? So I'm getting like, you know, triple the value of the work I did.
Any tips for keeping it from growing too large, you know what I mean, getting too cumbersome? I could see that possibly happening. Is there a certain layout you use that helps manage that more than you found beneficial, I guess is the question.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing, the layout was like image on one side and then title and description. I tend to use just the one. And if it starts to get too big, then I'll do like a little bit of weeding. But for the most part, it's like just the one layout and not all the things, right? Like if you know Google Sites, you'll note that I didn't mention like adding slides, adding docs, adding a map, adding a, scrolling something of the, like, just, I keep it simple, and that kind of reduces the clutter. Otherwise, not only would I spend more time, which I don't have extra, it would be easier for it to spiral out of control if I started adding all the things.
Sounds good. And all your links open up into new windows usually, so they don't
Yeah.
lose their Google site.
Yeah.
Bill, to follow up on something Butch just said, we have over the years used Google Sites for the portfolios for leading edge certification. And it was a big shift for a lot of people when they went from the classic, or when we needed to move from the classic version to the other. And you had mentioned in your opening that there are some things that moving to the new site is really the way to go, but some things were lost. Can you kind of give us a capsule of what we're losing from the old, or what?
Yeah, so the old Google Sites is more like you're building like a legitimate website.
Mhm.
And so the way it's organized and the way that you kind of build it out is like jump into whatever, like Squarespace, or insert your favorite web design tool. All of those are free and do it much, much better than classic sites. If you want to build like, and to be fair, like if I just take a quick aside, a Google Doc is a website.
Mhm.
Right? It has a URL that is unique. It is a website. You can build it like a website. I mean, that's essentially what HyperDocs is. It's like, it's not a Google Doc, it's a website. And so Google Sites is like that kind of clean, like, here's some resources from Google Drive. If you want a legit like website, whatever, like in your head you picture a website, just go to like Wix or Squarespace, or like build it out in WordPress. But Google Sites Classic is just like a bad version of those free websites at this point.
Right. Great. Good insights.
Where do you balance if your tutorials are you created or grabbed from the entity itself?
Katie, I try and build everything myself. There's just so many, and so like knowing who my teachers are or who our parents are, I think there's a real value in that. I like to try and keep them right in that 5-minute range so people will actually watch them. And then just hearing my voice, I think, is a big deal. And so as much as possible, just making my own, because it tends to be like a really specific thing I want to show them anyway, is it's quicker just to make my own and promise myself I do it in one take than to find the right one. Like I can make my own in 5 minutes, technically, right? Save a screen recording, like 0 editing. It would take me longer to find one.
Sorry, I don't have a webcam. I moved to a new computer, so I apologize for not seeing my face. But we're currently working on a project to use Google Sites to create online modules where teachers can actually access this learning at their own time, pay them for their time on ed tech tools or things we want them to learn how to use strategically in the classroom. So that's really, really exciting. And so I appreciate all of your information, because it's just different ways that we can think about to train teachers and also use in our classrooms so students and teachers can access that learning at any time. So I appreciate all of your information today.
That's awesome. That's so cool to hear. And Nisa shared a similar thing.
Hey, Bill, thanks for the great presentation today. I'm a first year, well, I guess 2 months in being an ed tech coach, having been a classroom teacher for a number of years, and kind of thrown into the fire, so to speak, but as are we all, right? And I'm wearing a lot of hats, and I'm creating resources for teachers, kind of similar to you, but much less organized. And I really appreciate your idea of the sort of the kind of the basic structure, how you kind of structure with the one pager, the tutorial, the help center, like creating a page and then adding a page for a different tool or a different resource. And that's gonna really help me. I'm gonna grab that idea. Thank you. But then my question just is a sort of just a general question for someone, where to start, like when you start building, like where did you start? There's a tech director in my district, and then there's another sort of TOSA STEM coach, and she and I basically are trying to support 220 teachers, and it's a lot. And like where to start in terms of, we've got resources, it's about like organizing them basically. So where did you start?
Absolutely. Well, so hang in there, man. Picked a
Yeah.
crazy year to switch to tech coach.
I know.
Woo! The way we did it, and there's so many ways to do it, but I can at least share what we did. We had our list of like you have to be proficient in this year. And that was a pretty small list when we really thought about it, right? So it had to be, for our younger learners, it had to be Seesaw, had to be Google Meet, had to be for middle school, Google Classroom, right? Everybody like really has to know Calendar. Those are like the big ones. And so those were like, each one of those kind of got its own page. And so tried to think about kind of how people have asked us for resources in the past. So that's why we would always have a one pager. We created that actually in Pages, exported as PDF. And then a different person would create a tutorial, a video tutorial, usually screen, usually not webcam. So that if you want to watch and listen, you could. If you want to just read and get a one pager and kind of do paint by number, you could. And then a link to like the company or like the platform help center. So like Google Classroom Help Center, right? Google Classroom one page, Google Classroom tutorial. And then as kind of specific things come up again and again, like if I find myself doing the third email in a week, I'll do that, TO. And it's so much funnier hearing my kindergartner in my head doing the TO. It's not cute when I do it. Be like, all right, this is like the third time I've answered the same thing. I'm going to just make a quick tutorial or a quick one pager and throw that on the Google Classroom site. So it's part of it is just me trying to like keep my head above water and being able to kind of replicate my effort. So when that fourth person comes in, it's just like, boom, I made a tutorial for you this week, go.
Right. I totally take your point about the home screencasts versus the finding one on YouTube. As just as a teacher in the classroom, my students in distance learning responded so much better to my voice, my instructions, than like some random YouTube teacher guy or person.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Great. We're out of time. Any closing thoughts or burning questions before we head off?
I'd just like to tell you, thanks, Bill. Great information that I've learned some more things I can put to use. Also, if everybody looks in the chat, I did put a link to the evaluation. Make sure you click on that and do the evaluation at the end of the day. Put you into a drawing for, I think Tom's taking some people to Hawaii or something for that drawing. But anyway, if you do that, and I hope everybody really enjoyed the conference and the leadership things, and people like Bill is what makes it better for all of us, sharing the day-to-day things that they do that make life easier. Thanks, Bill.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.